Okay, I was gonna wait to put out an update video on my Spyderco Shaman, but I'm just gonna give you guys a 24-hour update. As you know, if you've been watching my videos, I had one of these previously from DLT Trading. For whatever reason, the action was incredibly tight and gritty. Couldn't flick it open, could barely open it with my thumb. It made a horrible scraping noise. I contacted DLT. DLT, they just suggested that I send it back in up front. I went on ahead, I sent it back in. I sent it priority mail with the note as they requested and a copy of the receipt. And they turned around the same day they got my knife back. They sent this Shaman to me. No charge to me, priority mail. Excellent customer service. Well, what showed up was a Spyderco Shaman from the same exact batch as my other one, so I'm sure it was just one of the other ones that were sitting on the shelf. I did ask if they would look at this one for blade play in lock rock or whatever you want to call it before they sent it to me. So when I got it, if you looked at my video, it was very nice, looser or smoother than my other knife was. It was also a lot less gritty. It was not as tight. This knife, I was out of the box able to flick it open, both Spidey flick, which I don't do, and just using the thumb flick. The blade was very centered, and I opened and closed this knife for several hours yesterday as I finished up Peaky Blinders, which is a total side note. So, you know, I guess that must be maybe 6 or 7 hours worth of opening and closing this knife. Overall, the knife, the action is spectacular. I did end up adding, and I don't know if it'll show up in this video, but I did end up adding 2 drops of Nano oil, and it's too dark. You can see the washers are shining there. I added 1 drop of Nano oil to each side of the washer. And then there's also, if you're not gonna be able to see that either, but if you look, this tang extends here. There's a little detent ramp. I added a drop of oil there, not even a full drop. And that just 10 weight Nano oil, this right here. Again, I talked about this. If you're not familiar with this oil, this is the best oil that I've come across, and it's shown in this here. It took a knife that was already much better than the one I had before and made it even better. But this 10 weight Nano oil, maybe a total of 1 full drop, made this knife just night and day. Now, is it Chris Reeves Sabenza smooth? I wouldn't say that, but is it night and day over the Strider that I had? Absolutely 100%. As I mentioned in my other video, this oil, this is a 1/2 ounce. This oil did cost me, I think, $20, but I've had this oil for maybe, I don't know, 2, 3, 4 years. And I use it liberally. I use it to flush the joints of my slip joints, and it's lasted pretty much forever. If I was gonna buy oil, I would purchase this, and I would also turn around and purchase the 85 weight as well. I have the grease, but if you have these two, this will get you through most applications. But back to what I was discussing, which was this knife here, the Spyderco Shaman. Basically the equivalent of 1 drop of oil smooth this knife right out. As far as ergonomics are concerned, I find that when I first got this knife, the first one, I talked about this hump right here. And I do find I choke up on my knife because that's just how I always carry a knife if it has a forward choil, or hold a knife if it has a forward choil. You can see there that that swell meets right with my ring finger, and I don't know. It's almost like sometimes it bothers me, sometimes it doesn't. I'm still kind of deciding on if that's going to be something that is a problem for me or not. But right now it seems to be working out okay. I have to give some more thought to exactly what I think about this. I would prefer if this handle came straight out more and it didn't have as much of a taper. However, again, I can't say that this knife is not reasonably comfortable in hand. Sometimes when I grab it, I feel like it's not comfortable, but then a lot of times I grab it and it feels just fine. The thumb hole, and you know this can be a problem with Spydercos, the thumb hole itself has been chamfered, and I think, or maybe just that edge has been knocked off because this blade is stonewashed instead of the blade being just ground. So maybe that knocks some of these edges off, but it's very smooth. Like I said, you can see there the little bit of reflection. You can see that there are no sharp edges on this thumb hole. One other thing I mentioned is that the edge of the knife seems to be more refined. It seems to be 1,000 grit plus edge, whereas, you know, if you buy Striders, if you buy Spydercos, you know that these edges are not, they're not rough by any means. Spydercos actually come very sharp. I've had a lot of success with Spydercos over the years, much more so than other knives, but this just seems to be a little bit more refined. So the only other area that I might say is a little bit of a problem, and I think that if you watch Nick Shabazz's video on this, he talked about running a file in here. These are 90-degree edges. These 90-degree edges, if you get your finger in there, they're not the most comfortable, but you know, they're not bad. Another thing that I mentioned, because I know I got asked this before in the video, is balance. That balance is back here. So that balance is much more of a handle heavy balance than some other knives. Now, it's not bad in hand, but this is not a knife that's blade heavy or even balanced towards the middle. That balance point is well back here. I'm trying to think, is there anything else that I can think of? Oh, the other thing that I was asked about, and I mentioned this, that that's why you won't see any concealed carry Striders on my channel either. If this is supposed to be a hard use, heavy use knife, I don't think that this smooth contour G10 is going to give you enough traction if you're really out there digging in the dirt and the mud and everything else. I just don't think that smooth contour G10, especially in the wintertime when your hands are dry and cold, I don't think that this is going to give you the type of purchase. And you can hear here, my finger just kind of slides over this scale. So I don't necessarily think that this is the best finish. However, saying that, if you are the kind of person that doesn't mind modifying a knife, and I think that this is where this knife shines a little bit at, it's a heavy duty knife at a fairly reasonable price point. And I think it lends itself to someone, if they were willing to add some texture to these handles, I don't think it would be a knife that you would be opposed to doing that with. And if I was into modifying, I don't modify a lot, but that might be something that even I consider. Adding maybe some grooves or some rock texturing, which I've heard it called before, or whatever, that might be something that I would consider doing. But right now, I'm just gonna carry the knife, let it break in some more. Overall, like I said, this is just a 24-hour update from me receiving this knife yesterday. This is the second version that I've received. It is much better. I haven't adjusted the pivot, so you'll notice it does not drop free. However, it swings closed very easily. It flicks open very easily, however you would like to do it. And it's just a big, beefy offering from Spyderco. So this is something that I think is worth checking out if you're into big, beefy knives. And I think this comes in at a pretty good value, being that this is a $150 knife. So I appreciate you guys watching, and I'll catch you in the next video. Thank you.